They thought the camera was broken. A man lay on the concrete floor, not moving, his face pressed to the cold gray stone. The cell door stood open. A guard stared, frozen, as the red light on the camera blinked back on. And that's when everyone realized something was very wrong inside Cook County Jail. But no one knew yet how deep the truth went. The story begins long before that cell door opened, long before the alarms, long before the news vans lined the street. It begins with a place built to hold people the city wanted to forget. Cook County Jail sits on the west side of Chicago. From the outside, it looks like a small city made of concrete and steel. Tall fences, razor wire, watchtowers. At night, the lights never turn off. They glow like a warning. Inside, more than 6,000 people wake up every day not knowing what will happen next. Some are guilty, some are not. Most are waiting. Waiting for court, waiting for freedom, waiting for the system to notice them. For many, Cook County Jail is not the end. It is a holding place. But for others, it becomes something else entirely. A maze, a trap, a test of how long a human mind can survive under pressure. On a cold winter morning, Marcus Hill arrived in chains. He was 26 years old, tall, thin, quiet. Marcus had not been convicted of anything. He was charged, not proven guilty. His public defender told him it would be quick. A few weeks, she said. Maybe less. Marcus believed her. He stepped off the bus, eyes wide, as the gates closed behind him with a deep metal sound that echoed in his chest. Guards shouted orders. Names were called. Papers stamped. Shoes taken. Clothes swapped for orange and gray. When Marcus asked where he was going, no one answered. He was processed, fingerprinted, photographed, then led down a long hallway that smelled like bleach and sweat. This was Division 9. The doors slammed shut behind him. Division 9 was loud. Men shouted from cells. Metal banged against metal. Someone laughed. Someone cried. Someone screamed for a nurse who never came. Marcus was placed in a shared cell. 2 bunks. 1 toilet. No privacy. His cellmate was older, with tired eyes and scars on his arms. He said, "Don't trust the quiet here. It's never quiet for long." Marcus didn't understand yet. He would. The first week passed slowly. Marcus learned the rules fast. Don't stare. Don't ask too many questions. Keep your head down. Food came through a slot in the door. Gray trays. Cold meals. Sometimes missing parts. Sometimes wrong. Medical requests took days. Showers were rushed. Lights stayed on all night. Sleep came in pieces. Every morning, guards did count. Every night, they did it again. Men stood by their bunks as names were called. Miss one count, and the whole unit paid. One night, a man 2 cells down didn't answer. The shouting started. Guards rushed in. Doors slammed. Boots hit the floor. Marcus watched through the bars as they dragged the man out. His face was swollen. His hands were shaking. No one explained why. No one ever did. Weeks turned into months. Marcus's court date was delayed. Then delayed again. His lawyer said the system was backed up. Too many cases. Not enough time. Just hang in there, she said. But hanging in was harder than it sounded. Leon told Marcus stories in whispers at night. About men who lost their minds. About fights that started over nothing. About cameras that didn't always see everything. Things disappear here, Leon said once. People. Evidence. Time. Marcus laughed nervously. Leon didn't. Then came the lockdown. No warning. No explanation. The doors slammed shut early one afternoon. The lights flickered. The noise dropped into a heavy silence. Hours passed. No dinner came. No guards walked the floor. From somewhere far away, Marcus heard banging. Then shouting. Then the sound of something breaking. Leon sat on his bunk, staring at the door. "This is bad," he said. "What's happening?" Marcus asked. Leon shook his head. "When they lock it down like this, it means something already went wrong." The next morning, count was late. Very late. Guards finally appeared, tense and quiet. They didn't make eye contact. They rushed through names. When they reached cell 214, the guard stopped. "Where's Darnell?" he asked. No one answered. The guard frowned. He checked the list again. Darnell was supposed to be there. But his bunk was empty. His shoes were gone. His blanket was missing. It was like he had vanished. The unit buzzed with whispers. Some said Darnell had been moved. Others said he was taken to the hospital. A few said he never made it out of the night. The guard said nothing. Later that day, Marcus saw something that made his stomach turn. As he was being escorted to the shower, he passed a door that was slightly open. Inside, he saw a stretcher. A sheet covered the body. One foot stuck out. Marcus froze. The foot wore a jail-issued sock. That night, Leon didn't speak. He sat on his bunk, staring at the wall, hands clasped tight. "Leon," Marcus whispered. "What happened to Darnell?" Leon swallowed. "They'll say it was natural," he said softly. "They always do." Marcus felt cold all over. "Natural?" he asked. But Leon shook his head. "You don't survive long here if you ask why." Days later, the jail returned to normal. Or what passed for normal. The noise came back. The routine resumed. Darnell's name was never spoken again. Marcus tried to focus on his case. He wrote letters. He filed requests. He counted the days. Then something changed. One evening, during count, a new guard stopped at Marcus's cell. He stared at Marcus longer than necessary. "Stand back," the guard said. Marcus obeyed. The guard leaned close to Leon and spoke in a low voice. "You know what you saw," the guard said. "And you know what happens if you talk." Leon didn't answer. The guard smiled and moved on. Marcus felt his heart pound. "What was that?" he asked. Leon looked at him, eyes full of fear. "They know," Leon said. "They always know." That night, Leon didn't sleep. Neither did Marcus. Around 3 a.m., the lights flickered again. Footsteps echoed down the hall. Keys rattled. Marcus sat up as the cell door buzzed open. Two guards stood there. Leon once said, "You're coming with us." Leon looked back at Marcus. Just once. There was something in his eyes Marcus would never forget. Fear and regret. The door closed. Leon never came back. The next morning, Marcus asked where his cellmate was. A guard shrugged. "Transferred." "To where?" Marcus asked. The guard leaned close. "Somewhere quieter." Marcus felt sick. He realized then that Cook County Jail was not just holding people. It was hiding things. A week later, Marcus was moved to a new unit. New faces. New rules. Same walls. On his first night, he noticed something strange. The camera above his cell was dark. No red light. He pointed it out to a guard. "It's broken," the guard said. "Been that way for weeks." Marcus remembered the stretcher. The missing man. Leon's warning. His chest tightened. That night, from the cell next to his, Marcus heard a man crying softly. Then coughing. Then silence. Marcus lay awake, staring at the dark camera, wondering who was watching and who wasn't. And somewhere deep inside Cook County Jail, behind locked doors and broken cameras, something was about to be discovered. Something that would finally force the world to look inside. But not yet. Not until the cell door opened. By the time the ambulance lights flashed outside Cook County Jail, it was already too late. The man in cell 312 was pronounced dead before sunrise. No fight. No weapon. No witnesses. Just another body inside a building full of silence. And once again, the report would say the same word. Natural. Marcus Hill heard about it during breakfast. A guard whispered to another. Trays clattered. Someone laughed nervously. Marcus didn't touch his food. He stared at the wall, replaying the sounds from the night before. The coughing. The crying. The sudden quiet. He knew that sound now. It was the sound of someone being erased. After Leon disappeared, Marcus learned a new rule. Don't be noticed. He stopped asking questions. He stopped writing requests. He spoke only when spoken to. But even silence did not protect him. 3 days after the death in cell 312, Marcus's name was called during count. "Pack up," a guard said. "You're moving." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "Why?" he asked. The guard didn't answer. This unit was different. Smaller. Quieter. Colder. The lights buzzed louder here. The walls were scuffed with old marks, scratches, names, lines that counted days. Marcus's new cell had no window. Only a door. And a camera. This one worked. His new cellmate was a man named Isaiah. Early 30s. Strong build. Calm eyes. "Welcome to the waiting room," Isaiah said. "Waiting for what?" Marcus asked. Isaiah gave a small smile. "For someone to notice you. Or forget you." Isaiah had been in Cook County Jail for almost a year. "No trial yet," he said. "Just delays." He knew the jail better than most. The guard schedules. The blind spots. The rumors. "People think jail is loud," Isaiah said. "But the real danger is when it goes quiet." Marcus listened. Isaiah leaned closer. "You ever notice how some cameras break and never get fixed?" Marcus nodded slowly. "They break when they need them to," Isaiah said. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. The unit was too quiet. No shouting. No metal banging. No noise at all. Then, just past midnight, the power flickered. The camera above their cell went dark. Isaiah sat up. "Stay still," he whispered. Footsteps approached. Keys rattled. A door buzzed open somewhere down the hall. Marcus's heart pounded so hard he thought it would give him away. Voices murmured. Too low to hear. Then a sound Marcus would never forget. A heavy thud, like something hitting the floor. Then silence. Morning count came late. Again, the guards moved fast, eyes sharp, voices clipped. When they reached cell 305, the door stayed closed. The guard checked his list. "Where's Anthony?" he asked. No answer. The door opened. The cell was empty. Whispers spread like fire. Anthony had filed complaints. Anthony had asked for medical help. Anthony had talked to a lawyer. Now Anthony was gone. By noon, his name was removed from the board. By evening, it was like he never existed. Something inside Marcus snapped. The fear that had been a constant companion in the suffocating quiet of his cell twisted into a hot, sharp anger. He turned to his cellmate, Isaiah, his voice a low whisper. "How can they keep doing this?" Isaiah didn't look up, his eyes fixed on the grimy floor. "Because no one believes people like us." "But people die," Marcus insisted, his voice cracking. "That matters." Isaiah finally lifted his head, his gaze heavy. "Only if someone on the outside is watching." 2 days later, the unexpected happened. Marcus's name was called for legal visits. He hadn't requested one. In the small, sterile room, a woman with tired eyes and a notebook sat on the other side of the thick glass. She introduced herself as an investigator. "I'm looking into deaths inside this jail," she said calmly. "Your name came up." Marcus froze, his heart pounding against his ribs. "How?" The investigator slid a piece of paper toward the glass. Leon's name was typed at the top. Marcus's hands began to shake. "Leon was my cellmate," he managed to say. "They took him." The investigator nodded slowly. "And there's no record of a transfer." Leaning closer to the glass, Marcus felt a surge of validation. "They're hiding things." "I know," she replied. "That's why I'm here." Marcus hesitated. Every unwritten rule of survival screamed at him. Don't talk. Don't ask. Don't trust. But then the images flooded his mind. The stretcher rolling silently down the hall. The pale, socked foot. The growing number of empty cells that were never filled. The silence was a lie. "I'll tell you everything," he said, the words feeling like a final, irreversible choice. After that visit, the atmosphere changed. Guards watched him with new intensity. The daily counts seemed to last forever, their eyes lingering on him. His mail, the thin lifeline to the outside world, stopped coming altogether. Isaiah saw it too. "They know you spoke," he said one evening, his voice barely audible over the hum of the lights. "What happens now?" Marcus asked, a new kind of fear creeping in. Isaiah paused, his expression grim. "Now you see how the system protects itself." That night, a folded note appeared under his dinner tray. Just 2 words, stark and clear: "Stop talking." There was no signature, no obvious threat, just a cold, silent promise. The very next morning, the entire unit went into a sudden lockdown. No reason was given. Hours stretched into an eternity of silence. Then, screams shattered the quiet from the far end of the hall. Guards stormed past, doors slammed shut. Marcus stood paralyzed as his own cell door was thrown open and Isaiah was dragged out. "What did he do?" Marcus shouted, his voice raw. One of the guards turned back, a cruel smirk on his face. "You should be more worried about yourself." Isaiah didn't fight them. He just looked back at Marcus, a silent message in his eyes, and shook his head slowly. Isaiah never came back. That night, Marcus sat alone, the weight of the empty bunk pressing down on him. The small camera in the corner of his cell hummed, its red light a single, unblinking eye. For the first time, he stared right into it, willing it to see him, to record his defiance. 2 weeks passed. Then, a flicker of hope. A local paper published a small article. Questions raised after multiple deaths at Cook County Jail. There were no names, no specific details, just enough to light a small fire. The change was immediate. The guards grew tense, their usual arrogance replaced by a nervous energy. Supervisors, faces Marcus had never seen before, began walking the halls. Suddenly, cameras that had been broken for months were being fixed. Files were being moved in a hurry. For the first time in a long time, Marcus felt like someone on the outside was finally watching. But that hope was short-lived. That same night, long after lockdown, his cell door buzzed open. A guard he didn't recognize stood silhouetted in the doorway. "Pack up," he said, his voice flat. "Where am I going?" Marcus asked, his blood turning to ice. The guard smiled, a chilling, empty gesture. Somewhere off the record. As Marcus was led into the dimly lit hallway, a horrifying detail seized him. The cameras, the ones that were just fixed, were all dark. Every single one along the corridor was dead. And at the far end of the hall, a door stood open to a black, unlit room. Inside, just visible in the gloom, was a stretcher, waiting for him. In the shadowy depths of Cook County Jail, a place notorious for its brutal realities, one man's life was about to be turned upside down. His name was Marcus, and he was just trying to survive his sentence, keeping his head down and counting the days. But in a place like this, trouble has a way of finding you, whether you look for it or not. One night, Marcus was cornered in a dimly lit corridor by a group of inmates. This wasn't a random shakedown. Their eyes held a chilling emptiness, and their movements were unnervingly coordinated. They weren't after his commissary items. They were after him. As they closed in, a sudden, piercing alarm blared through the block. A guard, making his rounds earlier than usual, appeared at the end of the hall. The group scattered like phantoms, melting back into the shadows, leaving Marcus breathless and terrified. He knew, with icy certainty, that this wasn't just a lucky break. He was a target. This close call was just the beginning. Marcus started noticing things, strange patterns, whispers that died down whenever he approached. He remembered other inmates, guys who had vanished without a trace, dismissed as transfers or releases that no one ever heard from again. Was he next on that list? Fear turned into a desperate need for answers. He started paying attention, piecing together fragments of conversations and observing the subtle power dynamics between certain guards and a select group of inmates. A few days later, a new face appeared, Detective Miller, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for digging where others wouldn't dare. He was quietly looking into a string of unexplained incidents at the jail. He'd heard whispers of a powerful, corrupt network operating within the walls, a shadow system that controlled everything. Miller needed someone on the inside, someone with eyes and ears who was desperate enough to talk. Marcus knew the risks. Being a snitch in Cook County Jail was a death sentence. But staying silent was also a death sentence, just a slower one. He requested a meeting with the detective, a risky move that could expose him to everyone. In a sterile, windowless room, Marcus laid out everything he had seen and suspected: the coordinated attacks, the missing inmates, the guards who looked the other way. He named names, described routines, and pointed Miller toward the dark heart of the conspiracy. His testimony was the key Miller needed. It connected the dots, turning whispers and rumors into a full-blown investigation. The jail was thrown into chaos as federal agents, acting on Marcus's information, conducted a surprise raid. They uncovered evidence of a sophisticated operation run by corrupt officials, using inmates to enforce their will and eliminate anyone who posed a threat. The disappearances were no longer mysteries. They were cold-blooded murders, covered up by a system designed to protect its own. Marcus was immediately placed in protective custody, his life forever changed. He was no longer just an inmate. He was the key witness in one of the biggest corruption scandals in the city's history. His testimony in court was powerful, a voice for the countless victims who had been silenced. He exposed the rot at the core of the institution, leading to convictions that reached the highest levels of the jail's administration. Marcus's story is a stark reminder that even in the darkest of places, one person's courage can shine a light, expose the truth, and bring justice to those who thought they were above the law. It proves that standing up, even when you're terrified, can change everything. One afternoon, Marcus found himself pulled aside again. But this time, the guard's voice was different, softer. "You're being released," he said. Marcus couldn't believe it. "What?" "Charges dropped," the guard repeated. "Time served." With hands that wouldn't stop shaking, Marcus packed his few belongings. Walking down the long corridor, he passed cell after cell, faces watching him go. Some held a spark of hope. Others were just empty, void. Some seemed like they had already left their bodies long ago. Stepping outside, the world felt alien. The sky was vast, almost painfully bright. It was the first time in months Marcus felt like he could take a full, deep breath. The investigator who had championed his cause was waiting by the gate. "You're safe now," she said, her voice gentle. Marcus managed a nod, but his gaze was fixed on the imposing building behind him, the concrete and steel that had been his world. "No," he said, his voice barely a whisper. I'm just outside. The investigation didn't stop with his release. It gained momentum. Families of other inmates started to speak out. Former staff members, their consciences weighing on them, came forward to testify. Piles of records, once buried, were brought into the light and reviewed. There was no single, dramatic headline that captured the whole truth. Instead, it was the small stories, the individual accounts, that pieced together a horrifying picture. It wasn't the work of one evil person, not some monster lurking in the shadows. It was something far more insidious, something worse, systemic indifference. The system was stretched to its breaking point. Corners were constantly cut to save a buck. Warnings from both inmates and staff were repeatedly ignored. The final report detailed a culture of neglect. In the aftermath, some supervisors were quietly reassigned. Policies were rewritten with new, stricter language. Mandatory camera maintenance was finally implemented. It didn't feel like justice, not really. But it was a flicker of light in a very dark place. Months later, Marcus was in a small, sparsely furnished apartment. The TV was on, murmuring in the background. Suddenly, a short news segment caught his attention. Officials confirmed changes at Cook County Jail following an internal review. The reporter's voice was detached, professional. No names were mentioned, but Marcus knew them. He saw their faces in his mind. And he thought about Isaiah, the friend he'd left behind, wondering if he was okay. One evening, his phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. It was a single line of text. I'm alive. Different place. Same walls. A small, genuine smile touched Marcus's lips for the first time in what felt like an eternity. He closed his eyes, a wave of relief washing over him. Isaiah was alive. The jail still stands, a monument of concrete and despair. People still go in, and people still come out. But something has fundamentally shifted. Now, someone is watching. And not just the newly maintained cameras. People are watching. Because the true danger was never the iron bars or the locked doors. It was the silence. It was what happened when everyone looked away, when no one was paying attention. And this time, finally, someone was. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, please consider sharing it. The more people who are watching, the safer everyone is.